That night, a drunk fan climbed onto the stage screaming at Amy Winehouse. But she didn't scream back. She didn't call security. What she did instead left thousands of people in absolute silence. The Roundhouse in London was packed. Every seat filled, every person there to witness Amy Winehouse live. The air was thick with anticipation, cigarette smoke, and the hum of a crowd that knew they were about to see something raw, something real. Amy stepped onto the stage in her signature beehive, black eyeliner smudged just enough to look effortless, holding the microphone like it was an extension of her soul. She opened with, "You know I'm no good," and the crowd erupted. Her voice, that deep, smoky, heartbreaking voice, filled the room like a wave. People swayed, sang along, closed their eyes and let her words sink into their skin. This was Amy at her best, vulnerable and untouchable all at once. But halfway through the second verse, something shifted. A man in the front row, clearly drunk, started yelling. At first, it was just noise, incoherent shouting that blended into the music. But then he got louder. He stood up, stumbling slightly, pointing at Amy and screaming words no one could quite make out. The people around him tried to pull him down, but he shook them off. He was determined to be heard. Amy kept singing. She didn't stop. She didn't even look at him. Her eyes stayed closed, her voice steady, like she'd learned long ago how to block out the chaos. But the man wasn't stopping. He pushed forward, closer to the stage, his voice growing more aggressive, more desperate. And then he did the unthinkable. He climbed onto the stage. The music stopped. The band froze. Amy opened her eyes. And the entire room held its breath. Security rushed toward him, but Amy raised her hand. A single gesture. Stop. They hesitated, confused, but they stopped. The drunk man was now standing just a few feet away from her, swaying, tears streaming down his face. He was saying something, over and over, but his words were slurred, broken. All anyone could hear was pain. Amy didn't move. She didn't flinch. She just looked at him. Really looked at him. Not with anger, not with fear. With something else. Something softer. She walked toward him. The crowd gasped. Some people stood up, worried. The band members exchanged glances. What was she doing? This man was drunk, unpredictable. He could do anything. But Amy didn't care. She walked right up to him, close enough to touch, and she stopped. "What's your name?" she asked quietly. Her voice was barely audible, but in that silent room, it carried like a whisper in a cathedral. The man blinked, confused. He opened his mouth, closed it again. "Mark," he finally said, his voice cracking. "Mark," Amy repeated, nodding slowly. "What's going on, Mark?" He started to speak, but the words came out in sobs. He was trying to explain something about loss, about his wife, about how Amy's music was the only thing that made him feel anything anymore. He was falling apart right there on stage, in front of thousands of people, and he didn't care. He just needed someone to hear him. Amy listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't try to calm him down or rush him off the stage. She just stood there, holding the microphone loosely in one hand, and let him speak. When he finally stopped, when the sobs turned into shallow breaths, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled pack of cigarettes. She took one out, lit it, and handed it to him. "Here," she said. "Breathe." He took it with shaking hands. He took a drag, and for the first time since he'd climbed onto that stage, he looked calm. Amy nodded, then turned to the crowd. "He's okay," she said simply. "We're all okay." And then she did something no one expected. She sat down. Right there on the stage, cross-legged, like she was in her living room. She gestured for Mark to sit too. He did, still holding the cigarette, still crying quietly. Amy turned to her band and nodded. They started playing again, but softer this time, slower. An acoustic version of "Back to Black." Amy sang. Not to the crowd. To him. She sang every word like it was meant for Mark, like the song was written for this exact moment. Her voice cracked in places, raw and unpolished, but that only made it more powerful. The crowd stood frozen, some with tears running down their faces, others unable to look away. When the song ended, Amy stood up. She helped Mark to his feet, patted him on the shoulder, and security gently escorted him off stage. Not roughly. Not like a criminal. Like a person who needed help. Amy watched him go, then turned back to the microphone. Subscribe if you believe music can heal. Comment if you've ever felt like Mark. Because we all have. She picked up where she left off. The show continued. But nothing was the same. The energy in the room had shifted. It wasn't just a concert anymore. It was something sacred. But here's the part no one expected, the part that changed everything. After the show, Amy didn't go to her dressing room. She didn't celebrate with her band or decompress backstage. She found Mark. He was sitting outside the venue, still shaking, still processing what had just happened. A security guard was with him, making sure he was okay. Amy walked up, cigarette in hand, and sat down next to him. "You all right?" she asked. Mark looked at her, eyes red. "I'm sorry," he said. "I ruined your show." Amy shook her head. "You didn't ruin anything, love. You were honest. That's more than most people can say." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Amy reached into her jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked. "Lyrics," she said. "Something I wrote a while ago. Never recorded it. Never knew what to do with it. But I think you should have it." Mark unfolded the paper. The words were scribbled in messy handwriting, crossed out in places, rewritten in others. It was raw, unfinished, but beautiful. He read it once, then again, tears streaming down his face. "Why me?" he whispered. Amy shrugged. "Because you reminded me why I do this. Music isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. And tonight you were the realest person in that room." She stood up, stubbed out her cigarette, and walked back inside. Mark never saw her again. But he kept that piece of paper. Years later, after Amy was gone, he framed it. He hung it in his living room, a reminder of the night a broken man climbed onto a stage and a broken woman met him there. Amy Winehouse suddenly stopped mid-song. The entire crowd went silent. And in that silence, something extraordinary happened. That night didn't just change Mark. It changed everyone who was there. Word spread. People who weren't at the show heard the story. It became legend. Amy Winehouse, the troubled star, the tabloid headline, had shown the world what real compassion looked like. She didn't fix Mark's problems. She didn't save him. But she saw him. She acknowledged his pain. And sometimes that's enough. In the weeks that followed, Amy seemed different. Lighter maybe? Or maybe just more present. She started talking more to her fans after shows, staying longer, listening to their stories. She wasn't just performing anymore. She was connecting. That night with Mark had reminded her of something she'd almost forgotten. Music wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who needed it. Her band noticed it too. In interviews, they talk about how Amy had changed after that show. How she seemed more grounded, more intentional. She still struggled. The demons didn't disappear. But she fought harder. She showed up more. And the cigarette? The one she'd given to Mark? He never smoked it. He kept it in a small tin, a relic of the night Amy Winehouse stopped a concert for him. When she died, he took it out and looked at it for a long time. Then he put it back. He didn't need to smoke it. The memory was enough. Years later, Mark gave an interview. He talked about that night, about Amy, about how one moment of kindness had saved his life. "I was going to kill myself," he admitted. "That night was supposed to be my last night. But Amy saw me. She really saw me. And I realized if someone like her, with all her pain, could still show that much compassion, then maybe I could keep going." He did. He got help. He rebuilt his life. He named his daughter Amy. Backstage, Amy made a decision that would shock everyone around her. She tore up her set list and rewrote it on the spot. The next show, Amy opened with a speech. She stood at the microphone, no music, no introduction, and said, "If you're hurting, if you're broken, if you think no one cares, I want you to know something. I see you. I've been you. And you're not alone." The crowd erupted. But it wasn't just applause. It was relief. It was recognition. Amy had given them permission to be broken. And in a world that demanded perfection, that was revolutionary. She dedicated the rest of the tour to moments like that. She'd stop mid-show, scan the crowd, and pick someone. "You in the third row, with the blue jacket. Yeah, you. What's your story?" And they'd tell her. Right there, in front of everyone. And Amy would listen. Really listen. Then she'd sing something just for them. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Some called it genius. Others said she was losing control. But the fans knew. They knew what Amy was doing. She was turning concerts into therapy sessions, stages into safe spaces. She was using her platform to remind people that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was strength. And the lyrics she'd given to Mark? She never recorded them. But she sang them at every show after that night. Unfinished, raw, imperfect. Just like her. Just like all of us. Share this story if you believe in the power of compassion. Subscribe if Amy Winehouse's legacy means something to you. Because this is more than a story. It's a reminder that we all have the power to see each other, really see each other, if we're brave enough to stop and listen. Amy Winehouse didn't live long enough to see how far that ripple spread. But it did. Mark wasn't the only one she touched that night. Every person in that audience went home changed. They told their friends, their families. They carried that moment with them. And slowly, quietly, the world became a little bit softer. The video of that night, grainy and shaky, filmed on someone's phone from the back of the venue, surfaced online months later. It went viral immediately. Millions of people watched as Amy sat cross-legged on that stage, singing to a broken stranger. The comments section became a confessional. People shared their own stories of pain, of loss, of the moments when they felt invisible. And they thanked Amy, even though she was gone, for reminding them that being seen matters. One comment stood out among thousands. It was from a woman named Sarah, who wrote, "I was at that show. I was sitting 5 rows behind Mark. I'd come to the concert planning to end my life afterward. I had the pills in my purse. But watching Amy stop everything, watching her choose compassion over performance, it broke something open in me. I realized I wanted to be seen too. I wanted someone to ask my name. So I didn't take those pills. I found help instead. Amy saved my life that night, and she never even knew I existed." Sarah wasn't alone. Letters poured in from people all over the world who said that video had changed them. Teachers showed it in classrooms to teach empathy. Therapists used it in sessions to demonstrate active listening. Musicians cited it as the reason they started connecting more deeply with their audiences. That one moment, that single act of stopping to see someone, created a wave that's still moving today. Amy's family found the folded lyrics Mark had kept all those years. After his death, his daughter donated them to a charity auction benefiting mental health awareness. The bidding started at £500. It ended at $50,000. The buyer, anonymous, donated the lyrics to a museum dedicated to Amy's legacy. They're displayed now in a glass case, next to her iconic dresses and old vinyl records. But unlike those artifacts, the lyrics are unfinished. Imperfect. Real. And that's exactly how Amy would have wanted it. Her music continues to play in stadiums, in coffee shops, in bedrooms where people sit alone and need to feel less lonely. Back to Black, Rehab. Valerie, these songs are her legacy. But so is Mark. So is that night. So is every person who learned from her example that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop, breathe, and simply listen. The Roundhouse still hosts concerts. Bands from all over the world perform on that same stage. And every now and then, someone in the audience will share the story of what happened there years ago. New fans, too young to have seen Amy live, learn about the night she stopped a show for a stranger. And they understand, maybe for the first time, that music isn't just entertainment. It's medicine. It's connection. It's proof that we're all in this together, even when it doesn't feel like it. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to stop the music, step off the stage, and sit with someone who's falling apart. Amy did that. Not because she had to, but because she knew what it felt like to be Mark. She'd been there. She'd stood on stages, smiling through the pain, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. And maybe, just maybe, by helping him, she was helping herself too. The legacy of that night isn't just a story. It's a lesson. Music isn't just sound. It's connection. It's empathy. It's the space between the notes where we find each other. Amy understood that better than anyone. And even though she's gone, that lesson remains. Mark still visits her grave. Every year, on the anniversary of that night, he brings flowers. He sits for a while, talking to her like she's still there. He tells her about his daughter, about his life, about how he's still here because of her. And then he leaves the flowers and walks away, carrying her memory with him. The cigarette is still in the tin. The lyrics are still on the wall. And somewhere, in a recording someone made that night, you can still hear it. The moment Amy stopped singing, the moment she said, "He's okay. We're all okay." Because we are. Even when we're not. Even when we're broken and lost and climbing onto stages we have no business being on. We're okay. Because people like Amy existed. Because compassion exists. Because in the darkest moments, someone will stop, look at you, and say, "What's your name?" And that, more than any song, is what saves us.